Go. What is up, my brothers and sisters, my agents of respect? It's your boy TreJuanJohnson back with another episode of the No Disrespect But podcast. Before we get started, make sure y'all like and subscribe to the channel. And if you feel like commenting, make sure y'all keep those comments respectful. And then if you're trying to support your boy, your favorite podcaster, my cash app is going to be in the episode description. But without further ado, man, we got to get started. We got a special guest, Chason Virgil, on the pod today. And look, whenever there is Southeastern Louisiana royalty on the pod, you know I got to do it big. So I'm about to get some highlights before I let Chason introduce himself. Now, look, this guy ain't no snob or no snub or a scrub. 4 year starter out of high school, West Mesquite High School. 4 year starter, threw for over 6,800 yards, had 1,000 rush yards, then gets a scholarship to go to Fresno State. My New Orleans Saints fans, we familiar with that university right now. And look, we not too happy with that university, but I'll tell you, this guy is not like some of those guys on our roster. Started 14 games for the Bulldogs, threw for over 2,800 yards, 19 touchdowns. Actually, is the third freshman at the time in 2016, the third freshman in program history to throw for more than 2,000 yards in the season. And there's a certain someone who ain't on that list, but I'm not going to mention his name. But, being a Southeastern alum myself, there was a time where after two straight conference titles, we had some dark ages. And then comes in Coach Frank Selfo, and he brings in this quarterback from California that nobody knows about, and everybody wants to kind of read up on the guy. And they turned us around. It took a little bit after that first year. I think we won 4 games that first year, but that next year got us back to the postseason, man. And during his time as a Southeastern line, Chason threw for almost 7,000 yards, over 40 touchdowns, including rushing and passing. And look, probably had one of the most thrilling touchdown passes in Southeastern playoff history, leading us to a win over Villanova in the playoffs, man. So really rolled out his college career at Southeastern in style. So look, royalty in the building, a guy that took us out of the dark ages, and our program's kind of doing an up and up since. And I give him a lot of credit in what he was able to do, stabilizing that quarterback position. But without further ado, welcome Chason Virgil. Chason, tell the folks a little bit about yourself.
Man, you kind of hit it on the head right there. Like you said, man, just from Mesquite, Texas, born and raised, went to West Mesquite High School. Actually, came after my freshman year was after Trayvon Boykin's senior year. So me and him grew up with each other, played in the same little league organization. So I've been knowing Trey for a while. So being able to get there, started as a true freshman on varsity. So I was a 4 year starter on varsity. And then started picking up a lot of offers after my sophomore season. Actually, my sophomore year, I was actually the #1 QB in the state before Kyler started popping.
Okay.
But me and Kyler got a great relationship. But yeah, man, just had a good sophomore year. Junior year kind of I got hurt, so it kind of, and then my senior year, I had a really good senior year. It was first team All State. And actually going into my senior year, a lot of people don't know this. I was actually committed to Mississippi State. That's where I was going to school.
Okay.
But a month before I was supposed to leave early because I graduated early, a month before they pulled my offer, but they never talked to me about it. This was Dan Mullen, so
Wow.
I don't got a big relationship with Dan Mullen. But they pulled my offer at that time, and then honestly, it was a lot of schools that wanted me. Well, I ain't gonna say a lot, but Oklahoma came back into the picture when Heupel was the OC there. Chad Morris had just got the SMU job, and that's 15 minutes from the crib. But me and Chad had a great relationship because he was the one that gave me my first offer from Clemson. So I was gonna commit to Clemson my junior year, but I was told not to from him because he knew he was leaving at the time. And then I think Indiana offered me, Kentucky offered me. No, not Kentucky. Louisville offered me, and I actually took a visit there. But I knew Lamar was gonna be the guy, so I ain't wanna go over there. And then it was Fresno, man. And honestly, SMU was where I was gonna go. I
Okay.
was set on going to SMU only because I had somewhat of a name in the Dallas Fort Worth area, and there was a lot of
Mhm.
guys who we had all had a group thread and had decided, you know, basically what you see from SMU now, we were
Mhm.
going to start that at that time
Okay.
because at that time SMU, the thing about it was after the death penalty and all that, they stopped recruiting the area because the school
Mhm.
for one was so hard to get into and just all of that, and so I remember Chad Morrison them came to he called me on a Sunday and was like, "Have you made a decision?" And I was like, "Nah, hey, man, I ain't went nowhere yet." And he was like, "All right, some news gonna break tomorrow. I'll call you tomorrow." And it broke the next day. He was going to SMU and met with him that night. And then the next day, I went to SMU and was able to sit down with the dean. And
Mhm.
that's when the dean kind of told me, like, you know, for football players, we're gonna make, you know, some exceptions to get the football program and stuff back rolling. And so that's how it is what it is now. But that's where I wanted to go. And my dad wanted me to go to OU, and we got into a big little argument about that. And because Fresno really wasn't, man, it really wasn't a place I just necessarily say I wanted to go
Mhm.
because me and my dad got into it over the SMU and the OU situation. I just moved away from family, and Fresno was the
Mhm.
furthest away. Now the guy who recruited me, Marcus Woodson, great guy, love him to death. He's the DB coach at Arkansas now, but and Coach DeRuiter was great too. So Coach
Yeah.
DeRuiter's biggest thing was he had just left being a defensive coordinator at A&M with Von Miller and all them and got the
Yeah.
Fresno job. And so he was trying to bring a lot of Texas kids to California. So it was a lot of Texas kids there, but you know, getting out there and being able to see that I could probably play early, then I kind of
Mhm.
settled in and was like, okay, you know, it's not as bad of a situation. I didn't think it was a bad situation, but it was like, okay, I can make the most out of it. But
Right.
yeah, man, that's really how it went. And then, you know, played 3 years there, played as a true, got hurt our third game of the season against Utah. So I medical. I then played as a redshirt freshman. We had the worst season ever, but we was a young team because it was like we went 1-11, but we lost
Mhm.
8 games by like 3 points or less.
Oh wow.
It was like we knew we could be good, and then the next year, started the first 3 games of this year, and then ultimately they gave a job. They moved on from me and gave it to another kicker. This is when DeRuiter got fired the 1-11 year, like the ninth, 10th game of the season.
Okay.
And that going into that next year, Teffer came in, Jeff
Mhm.
Teffer. And I was gonna leave because me and Teffer had a terrible first interaction. Like it was
Yeah.
terrible. And I was like, no, I don't like Buddy. So I'm finna dip. And my folks was like, nah, you gonna stay, you gonna, you know, work through it or whatnot. And so I stayed, and then that year we was able to play. We actually played your team. We played Bama the year that
Okay.
they won the Natty on
I
the
remember
base
that.
of
Yeah.
Devontae Smith. So we played them that year, and then we played Washington the game after that. So we played like some heavy hitters, and
Mhm.
then after that they kind of went with the other QB who was good. Marcus was good,
Yeah.
and then you know, from there when I put in, this is back when you didn't have a transfer portal. So this is back when you had to go to compliance and tell them you was leaving, and they gave you a list of schools you couldn't go to.
Mhm.
And this is when I learned about the 5 years to play four. So
Mhm.
I was coming up on year four, and I had 2 years left. So I couldn't go to
Right.
another school and sit out and stay D1. So I had to drop. So at that point, I had to come up with a list of schools. And the Southland is kind of where I just fell at because I was really trying to come back closer to home. I was tired of being
Mhm.
away. And so actually the top teams on my list at that time was Sam Houston. They was the
Boo.
top team on the list. Boo, yeah, for real. But they was the top team on the list at that time. Because I had a couple of connections there, a couple of like cousins and brothers went there
Yeah.
or whatever. So it was like that's where I was gonna go. But actually it came down to 3 schools when it was all said and done. Rob called me. Rob is the coach who recruited me because Selfo wasn't there yet when I was getting recruited.
Right.
Rob called me, and then Stevens called me. Coach Stevens had called me, and so, but man, I'm not even gonna lie, I was real close to going to Alcorn State just because Steve McNair brother was the head coach, and we talked every day.
Hey, that would have been dope.
We talked every day. it was HBCU, and I kind of was like, man, I want to kind of get to a HBCU just to finish out.
Right.
But then I was like, nah. What really changed my mind because the three schools, it was Southeastern, Alcorn State, and PV.
Mm-hmm.
What changed my mind was I was sitting in my apartment at the time at Southeastern, and we were getting ready to go to a bowl game in Hawaii, and I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
gonna go at first. I
Okay.
was gonna take my visit to Southeastern,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had kind of told Coach Stevens like, "Coach, it ain't nothing y'all finna show me that I hadn't already seen. Like, I'm just coming to play ball at that point."
Yeah.
So I went to Hawaii, uh, got the last little bit of my money, on my bowl trip. But before we went, I never forget that weekend before we went, Sam Houston had played North Dakota State
Mm-hmm.
in the FCS playoffs, and I was like, "Dog, that'd be dope to play in that." So it really Southeastern really got the nod because of the chance to be able to play in the playoffs, and play
Nice.
those teams. And so, um, shoot, I got done playing in that bowl game. I flew from Hawaii back to Dallas. I committed to Southeastern the next day. It was real low, like nobody really knew. Only Stevens and
Mhm.
Rob really knew. And then that was probably that was like what the 26th of December. And then I was in Louisiana maybe like 3 weeks later. And
Okay.
so when I got to Southeastern, this was the crazy thing. Got there on a Saturday, did the dorm stuff, got set up. Monday's first day of workouts. We go through the whole first week. And every Friday at night, we would have Rob would bring us up there for like a little like a team meeting just to make sure,
Mm-hmm.
because you know how Southeastern is. It's a commuter school, so people usually gone on Thursdays.
Right. Right.
So Rob brought us up there that Friday, and that's when he told us he was going to Lafayette. So that was within my first week. So
Uh,
knowing what I know now,
yeah.
I don't know if this is breaking news, but Stevens was brought back to be the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Was labeled the OC, but he was supposed to be up to
The
the head
head guy.
coach.
Yeah.
But at that time, nobody knew that JRT's and Selfo was homeboys. So that's how Frank got the job. And so,
Yeah.
man, when Frank got the job, man, it was Frank is a Coach Selfo is a you gotta be around him to truly when you're in college, you probably
Mm-hmm.
don't when you're playing for him at the time, you probably don't uh
Look at
appreciate
that way.
things that he do. It's
Mm-hmm.
not until you move on and you get into our profession where you kind of like, hmm, I understand it. The one
Yeah.
thing I say about Coach Selfo that I loved about him, he different than most coaches in the sense of he challenges you,
Mm-hmm.
but he actually wants you to speak up for yourself. He
Right.
has like the mentality of like I'm if I'm gonna play you, it's because I trust you in a foxhole with me. So
Mm-hmm.
he gonna challenge you. He gonna step to you. But if you step back to him and you stand up for yourself, he's not gonna be like, "Oh, get him up out of here." It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Mhm.
now I see you got a little fight in you about yourself. So,
Do you
but no,
think that part of that is because of his like experience in the professional world too?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
so. I mean, he's been a lot of places. He's been a lot of
Right.
places, coached a lot of guys, and so he's kind of seen greatness. Um, Man, he to be honest, he just got a real funny way of talking about it. Like it's just a funny way of talking about it. But you just gotta with him, he's gonna put you in a lot of different situations that's gonna help you. You just don't see it at the
Mm-hmm.
time. And the other thing that I love about Frank is Frank never tried to make it a his team thing. He's
Mm-hmm.
always tried to make it like the players gotta lead the team. It has to be a player-led team. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just here just to be you know, the chaperone to get y'all to the
Right.
game. But when it's time to play, it's time to play. He would do things like make makes he would make me run team meetings at times. Like just click through it. All right, you got to go up there and talk about it. Or, if there was a big decision that had to be made,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which we might have to get to that story. That's a breaking news for sure. It was a big decision that had to be made. He came to all the captains about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you know, he was man, he was a good dude, man. He was a mix his attitude compared to Stevens was perfect to play for
Yeah.
because Coach Stevens is like the most laid back person you could ever be around. Don't cuss, barely yell, like barely yell. So, from an offensive coordinator standpoint, man, he was great to play around. But I played with some good OCs. DeBoer was my OC at Fresno my last year. So,
Mhm.
I have a great relationship with him as well. And Grubb actually at that time was our O-line coach. So seeing them boys, hopefully they get it going at Bama this year and
Yeah, man. Hopefully.
right.
Yeah, man. But that's interesting, man. Just kind of hearing you talk about your journey, how you got to Fresno, and then how you got to Southeastern. It's always kind of that divine timing of how you get where ultimately you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you talk a little bit about the quarterback position, and I want to put this out for the folks who's going to be watching this. Oh, chasing isn't, how you try to label the African American quarterback, and you have to be a
Yeah.
dual threat. And you got to run. Look, when I watched this dude play, I was like, hey, this pocket pass. I mean, he got a little wiggle to him now. He's not just gonna sit there and play patty cake in the pocket, but there was a just a level about you or something about you where it was like, hey, like I'm trying to hit you and beat you with my arm a lot of times too, and you were very successful at that. Could you kind of share a little bit about, I guess, your upbringing, like growing into the quarterback position?
Yeah.
Were there times where you felt like, hey, they want me to try to be this dual threat and run the ball, and I don't want to do that, or kind of what was kind of that coaching from
Man.
the time you started playing football to ultimately getting to your college career?
Yeah. When I was younger, man, I've always played quarterback. But
Mm-hmm.
obviously, when you're in little league, it's I played with a lot of good guys. Like one of my little league teams, we had like 12 guys on the team, 11 of us went D1. So, you know, I wouldn't say, I mean, we all would feel like we were the best player on the team.
Right.
My dad was my coach, and so younger, it was just about, we under center doing all that. I would run and all that. As I got older and the quarterback thing started to become a lifestyle, because I think that's the biggest thing. A lot of people play the position, but are you dedicated to a sense of it being your life? When you're a
Mm-hmm.
quarterback, it's a lifestyle that you got to live with, just like every other position. Like it's certain O linemen you're gonna look at and be like, I don't know if he an O lineman. No.
Right.
But so when I got 11, no, I'm gonna say 12. I was always throwing the ball in little league, but when I
Mhm.
became 12 was the first year that my little league made a rule that you can play. Well, no, it was the second year of this rule that you can play middle school ball in little league. So what
Okay.
my dad did was, as I was moving to middle school ball, especially in Texas, you start to run what the high school teams are running. So it
Mm-hmm.
was the spread offense. So we moved to the spread when I was 11. So I started learning how to, you know, three-step drop from the shotgun and, quick game and all of these things and just different concepts and stuff like that. And so when I got to middle school and we were, you had the trial and you on A team or B team, it was like
Mm-hmm.
I already knew, and so playing through middle school was good and stuff like that. But I could honestly say, and I ran the ball in middle school. When I
Mm-hmm.
got to high school, the difference was, I would say, for my development. The difference was in middle school, it was the QB design run. They ran, I
Gotcha.
didn't have a choice but to run the ball because they was calling a run play for me. If
Right.
you called a pass play, I really didn't scramble unless it was like I don't have nowhere else to go with the ball and it's like a last minute thing. Other than that, I was moving around to try to throw the ball because
Right.
the errors was different. Even though I'm not far removed from playing, a lot of things has changed in
Mm-hmm.
5 years of me not playing. For
Right.
example, when we were coming up, I would say, I mean, I guess you could say me, the Lamars, the Kyler's, and all that. The black quarterback you might have had, even I'll even say Jalen, you had everybody just assumed you can run because you black, but it was still, can you throw the ball from the pocket and win a
Right.
game? I think that's why the Super Bowl this year, I think, was bigger than what people give it credit for, because for the first time, we can honestly say there's a quarterback who can make all the throws, but he was considered a runner first and
Right.
has now won the Super Bowl. So now moving forward, the guys you got to draft, which we're going to talk about that later, might look a little bit different. moving forward, even to the point to where you're seeing our white counterparts be athletes now, like Dart, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So like you can't, or Josh Allen, like you can't look at it from the same perspective. But just in high school, growing up in the recruiting thing, and I hated that they did this with quarterbacks, and I gotta look and see if they still do it now, which I think they do. They broke you down into pocket passer or dual threat.
They still do, I believe. Yep.
It wasn't just quarterback. So you
Mm-hmm.
broke it down, and so at that time you had to make a decision on what it is that you really wanted to display. Because if I go this dual threat route, am I going to get the same love in the rankings and pub as this pocket passer guy? And
Right.
then what does that look like to a college recruiter? Because even though I can run, can I sit back in the pocket and do my thing? And I always, my biggest thing for me was the way that I kind of approach the quarterback um, play, and how I teach my kids now is you got to be Bruce Wayne till it's time to be Batman. Batman means you
Like
run
that.
the ball. Bruce Wayne mean I'm just chilling. You know what I'm saying? Bruce Wayne
Yeah.
means I'm able to beat you from the pocket. I'm not putting too much on myself. I'm making the easy play. If it's a check down, I'm taking a check down. Like I'm playing on time, I'm playing in rhythm. Um, so growing up in that process, that's how my process was. So I was trying to be more of a pocket passer and stuff like that to a fault. Because there was times, even when I watched my Southeastern film, there's plenty of times I probably could have took off and kept
Mm-hmm.
a drive going. But for me, my mentality is like these guys is out here running these routes. If they a little bit open,
I
like
can
I
get
give
it.
the ball to them, like or give them a chance. You know what I'm saying? Because
Mm-hmm.
I had that much trust in my guys, and so and there would be times they would tell me like, "Hey, bro, you just got to take off and run." Like, all right, bro, I got you. And so, but the other thing for me, I wasn't a big guy. I wasn't a big
Mm-hmm.
guy. I wasn't necessarily just the fastest. I could run enough to get out of the way, and I could probably break a long one if I just caught you off guard. But for me, I did pride myself on kind of throwing from the pocket and doing those things. And I still think it's something that needs to be a point of emphasis for a lot
Mm-hmm.
of these guys. As you look through college and you look through the NFL, like I tell people this all the time, when you look at a guy like Patrick Mahomes, one of the biggest things that he's done in his career that a lot of people don't see is what I just said. He was his first two Super Bowls, he was Batman,
Mm-hmm.
which means he was running around improvising, making these plays, no look passes, da da da, woo. And then something changed when he started to say, you know what? I don't have to be that no more. I can,
Yeah.
I can be Bruce Wayne majority of the time, and then I know when to cut it on to be Batman. And that's
Mm-hmm.
scary when you're dealing with a player like him, is because it's like, well, I know he can be Batman. He's won Super Bowls being Batman, and now
Right.
you're telling me he can be Bruce Wayne and chill most of the time, and we still got to worry when he cuts on to be Batman. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's the level that he's hit in his process. And I think that's the scary thing. I think you know, everybody had this elite quarterback talk. I think that's what Jalen is good at as well. He
Mm-hmm.
don't really want to be Batman, until the occasion calls for him to be.
Right.
He'll hand the ball off to Saquon and chill, and he'll get criticized on it for ESPN. But that's good quarterback play. I think a lot of people don't understand that Cam Newton made a statement, and he didn't explain it well.
Yeah.
Talked about the game changers versus the game manager.
Mm-hmm.
It's 10 times harder to be a game manager. It just really is. It's not a negative connotation. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually in the quarterback where it's a positive connotation. People think it's negative because it comes off like you're doing the least.
Yeah.
But while doing the least, I have to be more perfect than the game changer.
Mm-hmm.
Because while I am handing the ball off this many times, when I do throw, I
You
can't
gotta
miss
mean
the throw.
something.
I gotta make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So the game changer, you have more opportunities to make mistakes and battle from it and come
Mm-hmm.
back from it. As a game manager, I don't. Like I don't have that many opportunities to make that mistake. I gotta make it count. And so it is harder to do so. And I think when you're a game manager, you're more efficient. There's been
Yeah.
times Brady has had to be a game changer. There's a lot of times where he's been a game manager because he was so efficient. That's what made
Right.
him great. Um, so Man, I think it's one of those things. I think everybody has a different way of how they view it. I
Mm-hmm.
would say probably on a college and I would say on a college level, you view it based on what your system is and what you're trying to recruit for.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Probably say the same thing about the NFL. As you see some of these guys get signed to these different teams. I think on a high school level, man, it's all about how you believe in developing because
Yeah.
that's what it is. It's the hardest position to find in that school is a quarterback.
Yeah.
Because most teams will say, I'm gonna put my best athlete back there. And, you know, or most teams will say, well, this kid can throw, but can you do the necessary things to truly develop him into being somebody who can play at the next level?
Yeah.
And, me and you talk about it a lot on why the quarterback play has digressed a
Yeah.
lot. Well, it has because a lot of people can't teach it. A lot of people can't
Mm.
develop it. A lot of people are, I'm gonna use you for my system and that's it. Mm, okay. And the problem with that is when we say the quarterback position digress, I think coaching in football has too. Because a
I
lot of
agree with
people
that.
now, you're just getting guys for your system, but your system is supposed to be able to change based on who you have.
Mm.
They're not supposed to be able to change to your system. You know what I'm saying? So no, man, I think it's just, it's kind of one of them things. It's a position that everybody wants to critique, but not everybody can teach.
Right.
And
And,
that's
and speaking of that, you kind of shared some things, some insights with the quarterback position. How you mentioned there are people that can play quarterback, and there are people who are quarterbacks in terms
Mhm.
of the lifestyle. For a casual like myself who, can maybe simplify the quarterback position and everything that comes with it. What are some things just with your journey, one as a player developing, but even now as a coach that just your typical person just doesn't quite get or even see really when it comes to the quarterback position.
Okay. This is the best way I can put it. We always hear people talk about the debate on which position is the hardest,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I have utmost respect for anybody who has to play any of those positions because it's not easy. I hear people talk about corner. Well, this guy running full speed at me and I got to backpedal. That is true. That's
Mm-hmm.
tough. If you're a left tackle, these guys running 4.3, 4.4s, and you weigh 300 pounds and you got to kick step and block him and he has a two-way go. That's tough. If you're a center and you got to block Dexter Lawrence, you got to snap the ball, make an accurate snap, and get your hand back up to
Yeah.
block him. That's tough. With all of that being said, I have to sit back here and I have practically, let's just put on average, let's just say you got 20 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 20 seconds to see the coverage of the defense, figure out what y'all in, understand what I'm in, see if I need to check anything. And then once I say HUD, if it's a pass play, once I
Mm-hmm.
say HUD, my eyes have to then find the safety so I can see either they stayed in what I thought they were in or they're rolling to something else. So your mind is moving faster than your body is, number one. And the thing about it is, if you're in shotgun on a typical three-step drop, you have to have figured out what they're in the first two drops. Because the third drop, the ball has to come out. You don't have time to drop again because those guys up front are monsters. They getting paid just as they getting paid money too. The biggest thing that I tell people where it really becomes hard and where people don't see is it's 300-pound guys that runs 4.3 or 4.9 to 4.4s
Mm-hmm.
running at you to tackle you, but you can't look at none of them. You have to look downfield and you have to throw the ball to a guy that's running a 4.3, 4.4 in this tight of a spot
Wow.
or the ball going the other way. That's why that shit is so hard.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that the casual doesn't always see. They'll see, well, hey man, he just missed the throw. And this is why I said I think the NFL should give an alternate angle. I think all football should have an angle that sits behind the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Because the only thing I hate about watching NFL games is you never see if the receiver's open when he throw the ball. Because the,
Fair.
the, the camera's on the quarterback. So you never see what he actually sees. And the thing about watching the game from the side is what we deem as open, until you see it from the quarterback perspective, you don't know how much of a window that truly is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And especially in the NFL, dog, you got linebackers like that are insanely athletic. So that window
Yeah.
is not as open as you think it is. And then the other thing is like this. I often compare quarterbacking to uh to maybe like a golf swing or like shooting a basketball. But the
Hmm.
difference is when I'm shooting a basketball, the goal never moves. I might move, but the goal never
Yeah.
moves. If I'm
Right.
shooting a golf swing, I might have to see what the wind and stuff is like. But I got to do that with a football too.
Hmm.
The difference is my target is moving, and half of the time when I'm throwing the ball without my target even seeing me throw the ball. Like if he has to see me throw the ball, that means it's probably going to get picked.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot, man. It's a lot that goes into it before you say HUD,
Hmm.
and then there's so much more that goes into it after you say HUD. And the thing about it is, the best way I can explain the quarterback position, the great ones know how to operate in organized chaos, because that's what
Yeah.
it is. Every play is an organized chaos. It's chaos, but everybody is doing their chaos a certain way. Everybody's doing their job in the chaos,
Hmm.
but that's what it is. And you have to be the most calm person ever about it. Like everybody else running around with their hair on fire, and you got to be like, you almost got to move in slow motion while everything else is moving fast. And
Yeah.
so the way that you are able to do that is you have to win the play before you say HUD. And that's all mental. So you got to narrow down everything to basically two things can happen once I say HUD right here.
Hmm.
If this happens, I'm going here. If this happens, I'm going here. Sometimes you can get a play late and you like, hey, look, like for example, the Josh Allen play against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, that fourth down. Well, everybody can dissect the play and say, well, he should have went here with the ball.
Hmm.
And that sounds great. That sounds great. But once he said HUD and the guy came scot free, the guy who he ended up throwing the ball to, if he has time, he's probably going to hit him for a touchdown because the guy was wide open.
Yeah.
But it's that split second of I'm finna step up and throw it. I'm waiting on you. But now he flashes.
Yeah.
Lose the whole playoff. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, man, it's a tough position. It's by far the hardest position in football,
Yeah.
bar none. Um, no disrespect to no other position, but I think it's just like I said, man. It's you have to be able to operate in organized chaos. Some people and everybody do that a different way. Like
Hmm.
a lot of quarterbacks made some adjustments this year to their game that the average person might not see.
Right.
Example, Lamar Jackson. A lot of people don't know this. Go watch last year's tape to this year's tape. Really
Hmm.
about midway through this year, I seen the adjustment. Everybody knows Lamar will scramble.
Hmm.
Well, what Lamar did this year is he took a longer drop.
Hmm.
So, and I think he might have changed after the Eagles game. I'm not sure. But typically in your three-step drop, you usually get to about 8 yards, at the
Hmm.
most 10. But if you're going against a good D line like Philly or whoever, that interior, because the interior rushers are starting to be even
Yeah.
more valuable than outside, that interior is pushing the pocket back. So your old lineman is also kick backing up on pass blocking. So you're not essentially 10 yards away from where the line is. You're
Right.
essentially probably about 7. But what
Hmm.
Lamar did was Lamar pushed his drop to damn near 15. Reason being because now when I decide to step up in the pocket, y'all have to
Some
cover
room.
all this grass. And so because the quickest way for a quarterback to scramble is vertical.
Hmm.
Because which I don't understand why most teams don't do this. When you're playing running quarterbacks like Lamar, the Josh
Hmm.
Allen, the Hurts and all them, if you flush them to one side and they gotta scramble that way, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna want to play as a defense. because you've
Yeah.
cut off majority of the field. You cut off half of the field from me, number one. And then a lot of these guys don't like throwing on a run, especially a right-handed quarterback going to his left because I can't
Mhm.
really get my full body around. So, but if you sit back and you just let me run straight, oh, well then yeah, a guy like Lamar, you're not gonna catch him running straight. And by the time you turn your head around, he's picked up 10 to 15 yards.
Mhm.
But he's also got back so much that he's created more time for his wideouts to get open, and he has the arm strength to still get the ball to where it needs to go.
Yeah.
Um, which you kind of see Mahomes did it the first Super Bowl against when he threw the long ball to where
Yeah.
he bought so much time. It was because he knew he had the arm strength to do so. So I think from a coach standpoint, when you're talking about the position, it's not a lot of developers with it. And even some of these guys that I see training these guys, I mean, I guess my biggest question is what are you training them for?
Mhm.
You know, I think one good QB trainer is Jordan Palmer. I think he's great.
Mhm.
I think what he does with the guys to get them ready for pro day, I think it's perfect because he's specifically training you for what you're going to have to do to show that you're a top guy. Um, Tom House has been one. Tom House is a developer from the standpoint of technique. He changes
Mhm.
your throwing motions. Brady's throwing motion change. Um, Hurts throwing motion change. I know he worked with them too. So he's been great. Um, I seen a documentary they did on NFL Films when Jason Garrett was going around talking to guys, and
Mhm.
I mean the guy with the best technique on of it all was really the star of the show was Breeze, and he
Yeah.
talked about a lot of stuff. But a lot of these guys, man, that coach the position, especially on a college level, 9 times out of 10, you're the quarterback coach, you're the offensive coordinator. So you're just working directly with him, but you're not the individual and stuff that you're doing for him.
Mhm.
It's geared to what it is that you need him to do that week.
Ah.
Especially in season. In the off season, man, you talk about in the college game, you got to think about it, man. These coaches are out on the road recruiting. That kid ain't getting no extra technique work and things like that. Seeing what he did wrong on film to work on things to tighten up his game. Um, in high school we have that luxury because I'm with those kids every day. So,
Yeah.
some of the things that we do where I am now, every position has position schools. So,
Mhm.
for us in the quarterback room, we got a calendar for what it is that we might want to work this week. And, going through a self scout of how the season went. Um, we break it down based off the installs of our offense. And
Mhm.
okay, in this install, we're hitting these things, which means your workout needs to mirror this because this is what you need to work on to do these things.
Mhm.
Um, but a lot of these coaches, man, I think it's more so um, they just coaching you to do the system.
Yeah.
That's why I think you see QB play sometimes be so bad.
I got you, man. I appreciate that. Look, you really educate me on quarterbacks. Now you know when the fall comes, I'm gonna forget all of this. I'm gonna be irrational. But for now,
No, you're actually
it's
not bad though. You're actually not bad. You have some solid points on, when you talk about certain guys, you be right. You be right. I mean, shoot, we had a conversation one time. We was talking about the difference of quarterback play from
Mhm.
this era to the era that we grew up watching.
Yeah.
And I went back and looked at what you said. I was like, no, you're right. But I also had to look at the coaching.
Yeah.
Coaching is so much different. I think the other thing with that is as a coach, when you talk about developing a kid, you can't be afraid to put responsibilities on the kid,
Hmm.
right? And I think in the NFL, where Jalen took a step this year, not sorry, y'all, I keep mentioning Jalen, I'm an Eagles fan. Where Jalen took a step this year was because what it means you talk about. He's checking plays at the line of scrimmage. He was given more responsibility. Some of these guys, you don't ever see them audible play. They just whatever play it is, they going out there saying "hut." I think when you
Hmm.
look at rookies like Jaden Daniels had an unbelievable year, unbelievable year.
Hmm.
But what scares me about that is I don't trust Cliff Kingsbury because he
Hmm.
always starts out hot in his system, and then
He
when people
does.
start watching film, it's so college-like that he was throwing so many bubble screens. Okay, let's just take this away. And
Yeah.
then you didn't really run the ball. You didn't have the run game. Maybe they will now with the upgrades on the O line. And so, but I look at a rookie QB like uh Bo Nix,
Yeah.
who he didn't look good early because why? Sean Payton threw the whole kitchen sink at him.
Mm-hmm.
Why did he do that? Because what he did was it might look bad early, but I'm giving you answers that you're going to need later. So later
Mm-hmm.
in the year, you see a rookie quarterback checking plays or changing out of plays because now he's been given the answer. Sean Payton is really good at that with quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these coaches don't give answers because they don't have them.
Mm.
They don't have them. When I look at Steichen had answers,
Yeah.
or had answers. We didn't have none the year before. You know, Andy Reid is going to have an answer unless
Right.
it's just something you just can't do. He's going to have answers. Um, those things matter. Maybe with Caleb Williams, you're getting a guy and Ben Johnson. Maybe you have answers now.
Right.
Maybe he's able to say, "Nah, that play ain't gonna work. Let me do this." You have answers, and so I think that is really big in quarterback development. Is when you putting your system together, giving your guy the responsibility to check in and out of plays because you've taught him in a way that the system allows him to have answers. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, um, this was my first year being a coordinator this past football season, but when we put the system together, my kid knew if it's an inside zone, if I call inside zone to the left, we only want to run inside zone to the one technique.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if it's a three technique over there, he didn't we like the formation we in. If it's a three technique over there, he changed the play to a gap scheme because we want to run gap scheme to a three technique. So keep the direction the same.
Right.
Now you just
Just
change
not
it to a gap
different.
scheme, but that's an answer for him. You see what I'm saying? A lot of the
Yeah.
times they'll just say, "Oh well, we want to run into a one technique," but then to me as a play caller, you're putting too much pressure on yourself to be perfect because defenses get paid too.
They get paid too. Yeah.
Yeah, like they not gonna line up the way you always want them to line up. So you gotta equip your guy with answers. And for me, at Fresno and at Southeastern, the one thing that I always took pride in was changing protections.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, if I'm gonna get my head knocked off, I'd rather it be because of me than because of
Yeah.
a center who is smart as hell, but he don't see safety rotation. He can't see all that. He don't see the corner blitz over there. Like doesn't see all that. So just put it on me and let me learn it and deal with it. And then what it also did was now I know where I'm hot. I know it's pressure coming this way. I know what we running. No, he don't. The center don't know that. So
Yeah.
I know where the ball needs to go based off the look and where the pressure's coming from. You know, a lot of teams don't do that for these guys. And
Yeah.
and I think that's what Brady has been talking about for so long when he says the level of coaching and stuff has went down because I think they try so hard to dumb it down.
Yeah.
But if I gotta keep dumbing it down, you ain't the guy.
You
That
ain't
means
the guy.
that means you processing too slow.
Mhm.
And with everybody around being more athletic and being faster, you can't process slow like that.
Yeah.
That's just something that come with it.
Wow. Love it. And you talked a lot about development, and that's a good segue to this year's draft class, which I know is kind of the big thing. You reached out, he was like, "Hey Trey, when are we gonna talk about this quarterback class?" And I said,
Yeah.
"Hey man, look, let's get past the combine and it's your show to go." So, a lot of reports about this quarterback class. It's kind of like, is it a one-person class? Is it a two-person class? Well, a lot of these guys have to be developed. Um, I just want to get your take. You had an interest in talking about this class. Just wanted to know, what are your thoughts, just kind of coming in to some of these guys. You got guys like Cam Ward, Shador
Yeah.
Sanders, Jalen Milroe, Dart, Ewers, McCord. I mean, we can keep naming them, but just kind of, what are your thoughts on that
I
class
got
in this
I,
year?
I got a couple hot takes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. After watching, I'm gonna start with your boy. After watching Alabama this year,
Mm-hmm.
I was concerned because
Mm-hmm.
I played in the board system.
Right.
So I thought that from his junior year, which I thought he played well,
Mm-hmm.
I thought I would see a jump. I went back and watched film. There was a jump.
Mm-hmm.
But people also got to understand when you're operating in a new system as difficult as that one is,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have mistakes. So some of those turnovers is because of that. It ain't just because he just throwing the ball back.
Yeah.
Then I watched him at the Senior Bowl and said, okay, I seen him at the combine.
Mm-hmm.
He looked totally different. I think with Jalen Milroe, because there's guy, and this is why I think Jalen winning the Super Bowl is big for a guy like him.
Yeah.
Because if I'm an NFL team, I can say, maybe I don't bring him in to be a day one guy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I bring him in to sit and learn. Maybe he's like a Malik Willis or a Joe Milton that pops. You know what I'm saying? Or hell, he could be a better Tyler Huntley. You
Mm-hmm.
know, but I think in the right system, you might get something out of him. You might be like, you might be
Kellen
like,
Moore in New Orleans.
I'm gonna tell you the two teams who I think would be good for him, in my personal opinion. Which I don't know why. I think I can see the Saints,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because of obviously what Kellen Moore did, and then I can see the Colts because of Shane Steichen. I
Mm-hmm.
also believe that if they're so off Anthony Richardson,
Mm-hmm.
to me, if I'm Steichen, the best year I had in the league with the type of quarterback I had, I thought they should have been in a Justin Fields sweepstakes.
That's a good point.
I thought they should have been in a Justin Fields sweepstakes. But if I'm like the Jets,
Mm-hmm.
and let's for say some reason Milroe doesn't get picked up in the first round and he's there later, I take him. Just because my backup is very similar to who I guess Fields you would say the starter.
Right.
And now the system doesn't have to change a whole lot. And I think Aaron Glenn, defensive guy, understands what
Mm-hmm.
hurts defense. So I think that's why he went out and got that type of quarterback. So I think Milroe will be okay. Uh I think Dart jump Shador.
I'm not opposed. So I'm glad you said that. So I was talking with someone. I said, and I'm gonna be interested in hearing why that should take two. But I was like, when you look at with Shador, I'm trying to convince myself, do I like him as much as I do because of his physical abilities I can point to and what he does with the football? Or is it because the level of hate that he's gotten in his collegiate career, it's just made me have the opposite view of him and want to show that love and just anything he does, just highlight it. But
Mhm.
then I'm like, holds on to the ball, isn't uber athletic, maybe puts your offensive line in some issues. And then when I look at the arm talent of a Jackson Dart and the throws that he can make and the off schedule plays, and I'm like, is a team really crazy if they say, I want Dart
I
and
think you
what I
got to look
believe
at.
he has?
I think with Shador, you got to look at a couple things.
Okay.
Green flags. Green flags. Arm talent is off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the thing that Shador has going for him is because you've seen him operate in chaos for the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So the O line hasn't been perfect, but you've seen him still look good at times with no
Yeah.
run game.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm an NFL franchise and I'm picking early and I don't have everything figured out,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen somebody who kind of can work with it. Um, and I think he's an incredible talent, great young man. Red flags. His OC at Colorado, Pat Sherman, was an NFL coach,
Mm-hmm.
NFL OC. So that means you ran an NFL system at Colorado. Why take so many sacks? Because now it looks like you can't process fast.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it looks like from the strength of it. Not saying that that's the reason, but
Mm-hmm.
that's what it looks like from the strength of it that you can't process fast. That's what it is. So from there, you gotta basically um you gotta kind of look at it and be like, oh, okay, here's the other red flag that I think a lot of people are not bringing up. I know this because I'm from Texas. He's never played for anybody other than his dad.
Yeah, that's true.
So if I'm a team taking him, what happens when your dad's not coaching you?
Mm-hmm.
Because from what we know, not saying that this happened, but from what we know, and people are going to make up their own assumptions, you've been
Mm-hmm.
covered up by your dad.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you've never here's the other thing. We've never seen him have to compete for a job because it was always his job,
It
regardless.
was his job. Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So I think those are some red flags. And I also think, just personally, I hate when quarterbacks won't throw at the combine because to me, I
Okay.
know why they won't. They won't do it because Shador hit on this. Shador said this.
I got film.
They won't do it because they're not throwing to guys that they're comfortable with.
Which is going to be your first year in the NFL, right?
Bingo. But see, this is the thing. When you went to camps in high school, you weren't comfortable with those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So you've had to do it before. To me, Dart showed it don't matter who out here. My technique and what I do throwing the ball is not going to matter. If I know
Right.
that this is the route, I'm getting to my drop and I'm letting the ball go. Whether he gets to
Mm-hmm.
that spot or not, I know what it is. And I think Shador could have did the same thing. I think Cam
Right.
Ward could have did the same thing. But it kind of makes me mad when they don't do it because to me, that's why it looks like you're not doing it. I also look at I think Cam Ward's the number one guy.
I agree. I agree.
Only
It didn't
because
start out that way, but the more I really started to watch him play,
yeah,
I'm like, look, you
big
can't be that good all the time at multiple programs and just not be a guy that
bingo.
gets it.
Bingo. He's been good. He's been good everywhere he's been. Played in cold weather. Um, nice, nice body type. I think he's a little bit more athletic than Shador.
Mhm.
Um, and then man, I think he's just a cool, calm, collected guy. Like I just think he's a cool, calm, collected guy. I just think that he operates well in chaos. He
Yeah.
does. He operates well in chaos. And if you put things around him, I think he makes everybody better.
Yeah.
The way that he holds people accountable, like even when you see him and Shador train, the way he talks to Shador and hold him accountable, like you can just tell that he's a leader. And I've seen
Yeah.
Shador do it to his guys on his team too. So I'm not saying he's not a leader, but I think Shador's 3, but when I watch Jackson Dart play,
Hmm.
and here's what we got to give him credit for. Everybody talks SEC, but then when it comes to Dart, we never bring it up.
Yeah.
Played SEC. What was
He
he?
did.
3-year starter, right?
3 years starting SEC.
So
Yep.
3 year start in SEC. They've won 9, 10 plus games a year. Then they beat
Mhm.
Georgia this past year.
They did.
So what are we talking about? The guy has shown you he can play in the toughest league that we consider
Yeah.
in college football.
Right.
He beat a team that people at times was number one, and people consider this to be a legit team. These guys get drafted off that defense every year.
Yeah. You know,
He
they always
beats
on your
them.
team.
Yeah,
Southeastern.
exactly. Yeah, I'm just saying. He beats them, and he's also running the ball well in the
Mhm.
SEC. That translates to the NFL. It just does. It translates to the NFL. I don't know why we look at him and say, I don't like it.
You
Like
know
I
why
don't
they do it to him? They try to every time, every negative connotation I've really heard about Dart in terms of his performances have been, oh well, that's that gimmicky offense. We continue to run into this gimmicky offense narrative and what
but that's the
Lane
NFL.
can do, but that's the point. That's the NFL. That's what it is now.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's the NFL now. Like, I think, man, I think now, if we're talking about where I think these guys were fault, McCord, is McCord better than the guy from NC State?
I don't know. Probably not.
I'm gonna tell you another name. People don't like him.
Okay.
I think he has to. I wouldn't take him because I don't think that he shows that he loves the quarterback position.
Okay.
But when you just stack up where he played, Ewers played in big games.
You look. I'm gonna talk about you. You know, for me, he's a guy that I felt like everybody when Arch Manning came to campus and they just really wanted him to be the guy so bad that they were maybe a little bit too critical of
Mhm.
Quinn Ewers. But you as a quarterback and a coach, you know, I mean, practice says a lot. And if there's anything that Sark saw going into the development of that week that said Arch is going to give me the best chance to win,
He would have did it.
especially in an NIL era where now they're paying you. Oh, I'm making that move 10 times out of 10. So there were things that Quentin was proven throughout the week that he could do. And at the end of the day, he won. I mean, who's gotten Texas more close to being back at the quarterback position than Quinn Ewers?
And here's the thing: if he had to deal with the arch behind him for 2 years, that's a green flag to me as an NFL team. Because now I know you can handle the pressure of somebody being behind you. I'm a fan of the Eagles. Wentz folded as soon as Hurts came into the building. He folded. Like those things happen. So if I'm a team, maybe you pick him late to push somebody. Close that door.
Yeah.
Close the door. Maybe you push him late to push somebody. But man, when I really look at the class, and I could be wrong, I think a lot of these guys need to sit a year.
Okay.
I don't think Cam Ward is going to be forced to. I think if Shador goes to Cleveland, which I can see it happening, he's going to have to play. And I think he'll beat out Kenny Pickett. But they talking about Cleveland getting Kirk Cousins. If they get him, then they're for sure not taking a quarterback, which I think Cleveland would be stupid to do. But hey, they didn't okie doke Myles Garrett, so at this point, do whatever. But I think, like, I was looking at teams for like Dart. If I'm the Giants and you land Russell Wilson, I still draft Dart.
Yeah.
If I give you another one. If I'm the Steelers and you land Aaron Rodgers, I still draft Dart if he's available. Because he's going to sit a year behind Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Give me that. Give me that year. Perfectly fine with that. Like, people forget Mahomes sat a year.
He did.
People forget that. Like, I don't think it's
Rodgers sat, Drew Brees sat.
Hell, if I'm the Tennessee Titans, if I don't really like what I see from everybody else, I ain't finna just throw Cam Ward out there into the smoke. I'm gonna let Will Levis keep going out there getting his head kicked in, and midway through the year, I'm gonna let Cam take it over to get his confidence, which is what I think the Panthers should have did with Bryce Young.
Yeah.
Should have started him on the bench. The Texans had a little bit more in place, so for CJ to do what he did. The Commanders had a little bit more in place for Jaden Daniels to do what he did, but that's not everybody's reality going there high.
Right.
Like, even if I'm the Browns, if I'm Shador, yeah, you want to step into that, but do you really? Like, let Kenny Pickett go a little bit, and then you take over midway through the year, and then let's rock out. But I think I'm looking at quarterback needy teams. Who did the Raiders get? I can't remember.
The Raiders, who did they sign? Oh, Geno. They traded for Geno. So I think they still might be in the quarterback business.
And they gave him an
a
extension,
2-year
right?
deal. Yeah, they gave him an extension, 2-year extension.
I still might take one.
He's 33, 30. I think he's 33, right? So
Only way I wouldn't take one is if you feel that confident about the class next year. And as I'm looking at the class next year, who was the guy in that class next year? Because I think Arch gonna play 2 years in college.
I think so, and that's the thing, man. You know, as a saying, you probably see it down the timeline. Everybody like in the Who Dat Nation, like, oh, you can draft, playmakers and all that, and you can get a quarterback next year. And they're thinking, obviously, because of the Manning family, they're thinking Arch. And I'm like, we're gonna bet everything. So we're taking a 2025 class that have most of these guys have substantial experience playing.
Yeah.
So we've seen them, so we know who they are, and we're saying, well, yeah, the guy that didn't really play that much, we're going to bet everything on him.
I think what the Saints need to do is, you're at the 9th pick. If there's a quarterback there that you like, you take him.
I agree.
Because what happens is some older guys on that roster whose money's going to fall off. The money's not going to always be bad. It's going to eventually recoup itself. So if there's a quarterback there at 9, you take him. Now, if it's not one that you like, okay, fine, don't take him. But if there's a quarterback there at 9, you take him, and then you use the rest of that draft to maybe get you some more O-line depth pieces, or fill out the draft however y'all need to fill it out. I think y'all probably need the receiver class is heavy.
Yeah.
You get one in the second round, you got to take them. Because I've seen Saint fans say Genty at 9, and I'm like, why?
I don't
Like
mind it as a
I don't.
playmaker,
I
but I
see
get it.
why, because it's a two-headed
But yeah.
monster. Um, and honestly, man, if y'all stay healthy, that's the biggest thing. If you stay healthy, then if the Saints said, we feel as though we can push to contend this year, I
Mhm.
don't think that they're wrong if they're healthy. I don't
Mhm.
think they're wrong. But I've seen people mention the Will Johnson kid at 9. Not my cup of tea. I think he's
I'm
good,
against it.
but I don't think that he's gonna come in and be a Debo and Marshawn Lattimore.
And here's the thing, Chasen, even with as great as Marshawn Lattimore was for us, what did it equate to? It didn't equate to wins. When you no longer had Drew Brees at the quarterback position, you didn't have
Right.
Sean Payton at the head coach. It didn't equate to wins, largely in part because you couldn't rush the passer. You were almost last in pass rush win rate most
Yeah.
years in that 4-year gap. And to your point about when to take a quarterback, like I'm with you. If you see somebody at 9, or if you feel, here's my thing, even if you feel like, hey, I want to get a quarterback in this draft, I don't think this is the draft where you say, well, I'll try to wait until 40. I think last year's draft kind of showed you that. I mean, we talked about Michael Penix Jr. probably being the late first, and Bo Nix and JJ McCarthy were talking
Uh,
about being day 2 picks. And those teams say, well, they might be day 2 picks, but I won't have a chance to get them on day 2 because they're going to be gone before I get to them. So what I'm going to do
bingo.
is I'm going to take them now and then
That's
figure
true.
out the rest. If because that's the most important position in football. I don't think you leave that up to chance.
No, I think you take it, and I think you take it. If you feel a guy that you feel really great about, I think you take him. I think the way that y'all are handling the Cars contract, to me, shows that he probably won't be around next year.
Mm-mm.
Um, and hell, if he does play great, and I took a quarterback at 9, I'm still getting rid of him because now I get something
Exactly.
back for him. I
Right.
get a pick or
Give
something
me that
back for
comp
him.
pick. Yeah.
Yeah, you get something back for him. But man, I think, man, this is the problem. A lot of people, a lot of people, casual fans,
Mm-hmm.
go and think that this process is we need to trade or we need to pick for a field now. And sometimes that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times the great teams, or I don't want to say great, but the teams that you see continuously being good, sometimes they draft for years later down the road.
All right. Kansas
It's
City,
not
nobody thought they were going to draft a quarterback. They just went to the playoffs, won 12
exactly,
games,
exactly. And then the next year won 12
won it
games.
again.
They still had Mahomes in the wings, and it's like they didn't wait that. And I also think another sneaky team that'll take a quarterback first round, Dallas doing it wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me at all. It wouldn't
Dallas
surprise
doing
me at
wouldn't
all.
surprise because with the way that the league is going, if you got it, like let's say Shador falls, bro, they'll be at their goddamn mind not to take him because.
I think they'll take him if he falls to 12.
And I think that they would move Dak the next year. I think that they
Mm-hmm.
would have no problem doing so. They'll
Mm-hmm.
move him, take the cap hit, whatever it is gonna be, but you got him, and you can operate with that on a rookie contract.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can operate trading that guy and having that cap hit with that rookie contract. I wouldn't be surprised if they took a guy there at 12. If they like him, I think a lot of these you know casual fans, man, they just man, we gotta go best player available, or we gotta go this, or we gotta go that. And I'm like, that might be right, but that's why I said the thing with like if I'm the Saints, is Genty gonna be the thing that you ride to the next Super Bowl? I mean, maybe he can be, but if you're the Saints, you won a Super Bowl because you had one of the greatest fucking quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You're not in today's age, you're not winning a quarterback that can't be elite when it's time to
Yeah.
be elite.
Right.
So if there's any look, I didn't dug deep into the Howie Roseman bag, trenches and quarterback.
Trenches and
If you get them
quarterback.
two set, you can fill up everything else later.
And then the beauty is, and what I try to tell people with the whole Jalen Hurts thing, I was like, because they're like, oh, well, they got all these good players. I was like, yeah, because his rookie year, he showed that he could be a guy you could build around. Then his
Mhm.
first true year as a starter all around, he got to the playoffs. And you got him Devontae Smith. So, okay, we got him one good receiver. He made the playoffs. Well, let's go get him a stud in AJ Brown. And let's use all this money we have now. to go get people in the trenches and in the secondary. And we have these draft picks. Well, we don't have to use them on the quarterback anymore. We got
Yep.
two stud wide receivers.
Yep.
We can be okay at running back. Let's go attack the trenches. And you do that, and then now you get to a point where, okay, what's the one thing we're missing? We need more explosion in the backfield. Yeah, we had some 1,000-yard rushers, but we need some more explosion. Now you can go pay Saquon Barkley top market money, and you go get a Super Bowl, and that's just kind of what you hope happens.
I think to me, I think for so long with the Saints, I think they had the same formula the Eagles had, but they failed at it. And what I mean is, for so long after Breeze, your defense was carrying you. You was putting money into the defense, money into the defense. That was the time for your offense to get younger.
Yep.
And let them take their bumps and bruises because the defense was going to carry you. And you still had Sean Payton at the time. You still was going to put up points. So by the time you got to where you are now and the defense is older, your offense would have been able to carry. The formula that the Eagles have right now and why everybody's so caught up in the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson trade is because Howie Roseman said at the combine, the younger guys got to step up and start playing. It's not going to look the same. Well, he's basically saying, look, Chauncey could stay, but then the way that he's playing, we're going to have to pay him top safety dollar. Well, if I got to pay him top safety dollar, you talk about losing out on Jalen Carter, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, like you're losing out on something. And as you look at that defense, you miss him because of his energy.
Yeah.
Not because the plays he was really just making.
Yes,
Because he didn't have to make much. Just being honest. He didn't have to make much.
Squad.
Yeah. He didn't have to make much. But when you look at who they paid, you had to pay Zach Bond. That would have been foolish to let him walk out with the Dean injury. But even then, you still got Trotter sitting there. So if Dean not ready to go, you got Trotter. When you look at, Slay might be gone. Well, Keely Ringo's been sitting here the whole time. Huh?
I thought he signed with.
He's not. He's still on the roster.
Okay.
He's not off the roster until tomorrow, or either tomorrow or today, or no, tomorrow, Wednesday.
Tomorrow's
yeah. So, you look at it from that perspective. K. Slay's gone. Keely Ringo been here the whole time. The corner draft is deep. You look at the safety draft deep. You sitting at 32. I don't think Starks or the boy from South Carolina fall, but boy, if they do, God bless. I don't want to hear nothing about how we sneaky. Hey man, somebody should have took him.
Yeah.
But you look at, the other name that you might have to pay if he continues to grow is Nolan Smith. You got to look at, they hadn't paid Jordan Davis.
Yeah.
They picked up his fifth-year option. So, it's some things like that people got to look at and be like, okay, they can't expend all that money on that side of the ball no more. But what did they do? They front-loaded the offense, and it's like, y'all got to carry us for a little bit.
Yeah.
And they have the ability to do so. But, man, I just think, man, a lot of these things that you see in free agency, like I like what the Commanders are doing because you got a quarterback on a rookie contract. I like what the Vikings are doing, quarterback on a rookie contract, which is why if I'm the Vikings, I don't even swing for the fences for A-Rod or none of those vet guys. Just let them play. Let them play. When you look at, I think the Patriots are doing, I wouldn't have paid Milton Williams $26 million a year, but I understand why they did it. But they're trying to swing for the fences while you're on a rookie quarterback deal, and I get it, But then you look at teams like the Bengals, who ain't got nothing. And then the other thing is, for Saints fans, and I got a lot of them on my tier, I've never heard nobody suggest a trade that makes sense.
No, they never do.
Like, if I'm depending on what the Bengals was asking for, let's just say you had a second round pick. If it took you 2 seconds to get T. Higgins, would you do it?
Yeah.
I would do it too. Because who am I going to find in the second round that's better than him already? So now you got him, you got Olave, you got Shaheed or she. Now looks totally different on that side of the ball. I think a lot of Saints fans, and people have to be, I be critical of them because I got Saints homeboys, but I really be playing.
Yeah.
When I really watch about, dog, you started the year out putting up 40 points easy. The only thing that happened was in the Philly game, your whole line got decimated in the first two series.
Yeah.
So you dealt with it because
And,
I thought Kubiak wasn't bad. He works everything off the run game and he didn't have it no more.
he didn't have it.
So
And partially, because I even said in the first two games, you look at it, our second halves were kind of weak,
yeah, you put that on
and
people.
then you go into the year and you're like, okay, like we look good in the first half, and then second half, and it's like, are we gonna change something, or are
Yeah,
we just gonna keep doing it? And so I think part of that is him growing as a play caller. I mean, this was only his second opportunity as a offensive coordinator, and in that other instance, it was a 1 year thing too, because the whole coaching staff got fired. So now he's going into his third
yeah,
stint, and maybe with a much younger coach in McDonald, who probably has a little
yeah.
bit more job security, he can probably grow now as an
But shit,
offensive play caller.
he ain't got nothing over there to work with though.
I'd be
He ain't
pissed. I ain't gonna lie.
got nothing over there to work with, dog.
Yeah.
How do you feel about? Because I don't think he necessarily played bad, and I think Kellen Moore can get the most out of him. I didn't think Spencer Rattler was bad.
No, I didn't think he was bad. And the way I say it is Trey would say, "Hey, I'm gonna roll with Spencer Rattler, see if I can develop, find something with him. If I can, great. If not, then I can look into 2026 and beyond and get somebody." But at the same time, I'm understanding that as a first time head coach in Kellen Moore, can you say that Spencer Rattler showed you everything? That
Yeah,
says this is my first opportunity. This is maybe my first opportunity to. This is his first opportunity to pick a quarterback. He
yeah.
inherited that. He inherited Justin Herbert. He inherited Jalen Hurts. So this is his first opportunity to be able to pick his guy. Like it's funny because we can say, "Oh well, Kellen Moore likes this type of quarterback," but how do we know? He just performed based on who he had at his
And
disposal.
the reason why Kellen Moore is good is because again, he's a guy who doesn't fit a quarterback to his system. He fits the system.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the safe thing, obviously, if you're a first time head coach, is to go with the vet. Is to
Yeah,
go with Derek Carr. Here's
yeah.
my thing with Derek Carr. My thing with Derek Carr is I watched him have the NFL's leading rusher in a 1,500-yard wideout, and they got nowhere in Oakland or
Oh,
Vegas, wherever they
Las
were.
Vegas, whatever. Yeah.
Um, Man, I just don't think he's the guy that's gonna put you over the top.
Yeah,
I
he's
think
he's
I
not.
think I think he's the guy that I mean he throws a great ball. He's smart. I think he has talent, but he make too many mental errors
Hmm.
this deep into his career sometimes too.
The
Like
the mental
it's some
errors, and I think the
stuff.
personality, man.
Yeah, that too.
Like I would say this. Like, yeah, Kirk Cousins at the end of the day, it didn't work out for him in Atlanta. They end up drafting a younger quarterback. They eventually insert him into the starting lineup.
Yeah.
But him coming to Atlanta, he didn't have this complex of, man, y'all need me. I'm here to make y'all better. And y'all just need to follow me. He just played his game. People followed his lead. And he was such a good teammate that even when he got replaced by Michael Penix Jr., that level of intensity and just what he approached to the game didn't change. Whereas I think Derek Carr, and probably part of this is Dennis Allen's fault of saying, man, really, really need you. He came with that mentality of, man, y'all need me. Y'all this trash organization. I'm the guy to change everything for y'all. And he behaved that way. Even when certain teammates made mistakes, he
Hmm.
increased it by, undressing them pretty much in
Yep.
public. And when he was the guy making the mistake, it was excuse after excuse after excuse. And I think that starts to wear on people. So at this point, I think even now he's in a place where he knows he doesn't want to be there. The one reason why he was there is no longer there. And right now, the Saints are just having to play the political game because everybody's like, oh, why would they restructure him? Why didn't they just cut him? Well, I don't want to spend money. I want to go get Justin Reed that I just got. I don't want to wait until June 2nd and hopefully and hoping and praying that a player of that caliber is available. Now I want the money now. We can figure out the Derek Carr situation later. He'll get his
Mm.
40 million or whatever. He may play for us, he may not. But at the end of the day, we got to be able to do what's best for business and make the moves we need for our coach to be successful.
So
So
you didn't like the Justin Reed signing?
no, I did.
Oh,
I
okay.
liked it. No, I did, and I'm saying, a player of that caliber, and then
You got to take
even
him.
going after a Charvarius Ward early in the offseason. You don't get that opportunity if you cut Derek Carr or you trade Derek Carr, which what is another team's incentive to help you? Why would I try to trade for him before the new league year to help you get more money and maybe uh take something off of me? Now I'm gonna wait to draft season. And then if we can talk. Well, the Saints can't wait that long. They gotta get money. And it's funny, our fan base is like, oh, we don't want the old guys, but we also don't want Carr. Well, you got to pick and choose. And it's seeming that, hey, we had to do with Carr's contract, but we're gonna move off of him. But there's some of the old guys that we kind of kept around. You restructured Demario Davis, who I think just had one bad year, and that's just because it's bad by his standards. He was still our best linebacker on the team. Tyrann Mathieu takes a pay cut, and then you go get a guy like Justin Reed. So you trade for a guy like Gacho, who is a run stopper on the defensive side of the ball that can probably help you with what your run defense has been the past couple of years. So you kind of got to be patient and just look at it through different lenses. Like obviously, we might not like players or even like executives, but jobs still have to be done, and they got to find ways to do what they want to do. And in this league and in this business, sometimes you got to do what you don't want to do to be able to do what you do want to do. And I think that's kind of where the Saints are right now with all these contracts, man. But it's crazy.
Okay. No, man,
Mm.
I think the NFL season is gonna be crazy, man. I think it's gonna be crazy. I think watching NFL free agency right now,
Mm-hmm.
I think some of these teams overspending.
Of course, they always do
Some of
that.
these
I mean,
teams
they
are
always do.
overspending big time.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of these guys, I'm just like, nah.
Yeah,
I don't know
you
if
know,
I
part
can.
of that is they got to spend the money too. I mean, at some so you've seen these do these crazy deals, and that's like that every year. And the unfortunate thing is they're going to be beholden to the contract they have, not the player that they actually are. And that's always the interesting thing about this, man. But bro, I won't keep you much longer, man. I really do appreciate you
Oh man,
coming through,
anytime,
man.
anytime,
Man,
anytime.
look, man, like I said, look, I done learned some things about the quarterback position. Maybe I know I'll probably start to look at some things through a different lens
Yeah.
now and keep it going. But man, you gotta when y'all drop y'all schedule, you gotta let me know so I can try to catch a game or two this
Bet,
upcoming
bet,
year.
bet, bet. Y'all play. Where y'all play Southeastern at this year? There or where y'all at?
We play Southeastern in Hammond.
I might pull up to that game.
So I might go to that one because it's November 1st. It's November 1st, and I don't think we have anything. Basketball wouldn't have started yet. So I think I might pull up to that one.
Okay, I might pull up to that one for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah, man. But
And
yeah,
appreciate
yeah,
you having me, man.
yeah, man. Anything before we let out? Anything you want to say to the
And
folks?
man, y'all follow me on Twitter. I'm a great follow. Uh, Coach Virgil underscore. Man, hey, we always talking ball on Twitter. Always talking about, NFL, college. This is actually my favorite time of the year. This is the crazy thing. My favorite time of the year is from now till draft. Like
Yeah.
I'm blocked in on Twitter on my phone, just trying to see where people going. I'm just a football junkie, man. I'm an NFL junkie, so I'm always trying to see where people going, seeing how teams are shaping up, and just trying to, kind of do the conspiracy on why people do what they do. But man, nah, man, this the best time of the year right here, man. So appreciate you having me on. Um, man, that's it.
Well, yeah, man. As y'all know how we close. Look, if there's anything that we said that offended anyone, and there's probably gonna be some coaches out there that's a little butthurt, but it's okay. That's a good thing, right? It's an
Yeah,
opportunity for us
holla
to
at me. We'll
learn.
talk about it. We can talk
Right,
about it. Holla at
right.
me.
It's an opportunity for us to learn, and it's an opportunity for you to teach us. And all we ask is that you keep it respectful. Peace.
Peace.